It was revealed in 2011, the inflow of remittance grew by 7% against 2010, from $18.7 billion to $20.7 billion. If expressed in peso terms, and considering the appreciation of peso against US dollar, the growth in peso term was only 3%, from 846 billion pesos to 871 billion pesos. Between the two-year period, peso gained from 46.32 in 2010 to 42.42 in August 2011, or 3 pesos and 90 centavos per dollar. The OFWs simply have to remit more foreign exchange to meet the fixed cost obligation of their families back home. Some have even speculated that part of the dollar inflow reported in official statistics are remittances that previously were coursed through informal channel, but are now being transmitted through formal channel as regulatory authorities implement stricter measures on registration and licensing of money remittance firms, and also with requires to the requirement of the AMLA. The BSP expects the remittance will still increase this year, although at a slower pace of 5%, which may attribute to the still increasing deployment of workers. The POEA recently reported that the number of workers deployed reached 1.6 million in 2011, or a growth of 15% from 2010. While we foresee that OFW deployment will continue for many years, down the road, it is not likely that it will taper off and decline. Recently, the POEA has already announced a 5-year phase-out plan for domestic workers. Dr. Villegas, in a recent presentation, claimed that Philippine economy is reaching its tipping point. Global banking giant HSBC sees the country leapfrogging as the 16th largest economy in the world by 2050, jumping by 27 notches from its current ranking of 43. HSBC projected that the Philippines will have an average GDP growth of 8.4% from 2010 to 2020, 7.3% from 2020 to 2030, 6.6% from 2030 to 2040, and 5.8% from 2040 to 2050. The improvement in the domestic economy may translate into more local jobs, which may result in declining number of Filipinos leaving for jobs abroad. It is not a remote possibility that Philippine overseas labor and the remittance it provides may be overtaken by other nationalities as they take over some of the jobs that previously have been dominated by Filipinos. One country that presents this threat to the Philippine migrant worker is Indonesia. This year, Indonesia's population is expected to reach 248 million, 2.5 times bigger than the Philippines, making it the world's fourth most populated nation. It is the only Southeast Asian member of the G20. Like other Asian countries with surplus labor, Indonesia is a major global source of migrant workers. The estimates of the number of Indonesian workers vary from 4 to 6 million, and it ranked only 17 among remittance recipient countries with flow of $7.1 billion in 2010. However, Between 2010 and 2050, its working age population is expected to increase by 17.9%. Thus, it is expected to be a major participant in the labor export market in the years to come. For instance, in Taiwan, Indonesia already make up 40% of the foreign workers market, which used to be dominated by Filipinos and Thais. In Hong Kong, Indonesians have already taken over as the #1 OFW in Hong Kong. From 50,000 10 years ago, they have now 230,000 workers in Hong Kong, while Philippines, who have about 190,000 8 years ago, is now down to 123,000. Indonesia ranked much lower as a remittance recipient country at 17th. As of 2010, it is estimated that Indonesia had 7.1 billion. But to let you know, based on a study of ADB, it says that only 30% was captured by the study, because that was the only amount that went through the formal channel. There is still 70% that went through the informal channel. If that is the case, then Indonesia remittance inflow, if you add all of it, it is much bigger than the Philippine market. Without doubt, OFW remittance have greatly contributed to Philippine economic growth. These are not without corresponding costs, particularly social costs. In his recent publication, The Book of Virtues and Values by Dr. Villegas, referred to the OFW phenomenon as the necessary evil, forcing numerous households to sacrifice their social and spiritual welfare in favor of economic progress. In last Tuesday issue of Philippine Daily Inquirer, the phenomenon was aptly described by Professor Mary Lou Alcid of UP's College of Social Work and Community Development, described as transnational Filipino families, where family members, parents, as well as siblings are in various countries all over the globe. OFW migration is changing our views on family values, work, and even our perspective on employment and wealth. It has definitely diminished the traditional shared moments of family members and altered our values and outlook for the quality of life as a family. It has aggravated the social cost of having separated families, broken homes, neglect in parental guidance, and the difficulties in communicating between spouses and parents and their children. Much has to be done in terms of fully understanding the social cost of labor, migration to the countries, and its impact on individual families. One can merely look at some today's disturbing statistics. Some recently figure from the Office of the Solicitor General, whose task is to challenge annulment cases, are alarming. From 2001, there were 4,520 cases of annulment. In 2010, it is 8,282. The figure represents only those spouses that have decided to separate using the process of court. Recently, the Department of Education revealed that 5.6 million pupils and students in the country between the ages of 6 to 15 has dropped out or have never gone to school. The rising school dropout rate is alarming, considering that in the next decade, the children will be aged 16 to 25, physically grown, up but uneducated and without the ability to land a decent job. The social cost of labor export, as cited also in Professor Alcid's study, includes the case of illegal recruitment, cases of violence and physical abuse, including death, and those who end up in jail or are meted death penalties for crimes such as drug trafficking. Definitely, the separation of families and the rising number of school dropouts are just some of the symptoms of the changing dynamic of Philippine society. Whether born out of labor migration or otherwise, this has corresponding social costs that eventually will become big economic costs. The fact that OFW remittances have contributed greatly to Philippine economic growth is undisputable. However, where the country's growth drivers have similarities to those of developed countries where services dominate in terms of contribution to GDP, many of our countrymen remain poor. The country has actually lagged behind its Asian neighbor in reducing poverty, even as economic growth kept pace. Earlier, I have mentioned that OFW are not the poorest of the poor, but they come from mainly middle-income households who in turn drive personal consumption spending. The World Bank study, World Development Indicators show that the poorest 20% of Filipino account for a meager 5.4% of country's consumption spending. The bank's studies have also shown that countries with more unequal distribution of consumption or income have a greater rate of poverty. Unfortunately, the Philippines, when compared to its Asian neighbor, rank among the highest. Thus, while remittances have contributed greatly to economic growth, these have done very little by way of reducing poverty and may even have contributed in widening the gap between the rich and the poor. Great effort must be exerted by the government and the private sector to help OFWs and their families to make better use of remittance by building up savings and directing this into investment in small and medium-scale enterprises that in turn can generate more jobs. In doing so, OFW can participate more meaningfully in Philippine economic development. Given the plus and minuses of OFW's remittances, how then does iRemit, like a company like iRemit, foresee its future? The first decade of our company was a period that may be called the building stage of the organization in terms of infrastructure, technology, and capabilities. It is now poised to capitalize on the investment in its early years to transform itself into a global player in the money transfer business. The phenomenon of labor migration is not unique in the Philippines. About 3% or 215 million people live outside their countries of birth. The World Bank estimates that global remittance will reach $533 billion this year, and 517 and 615 billion in 2013 and 2014. In the absolute amount, remittances are expected to surpass private debt and portfolio equity, official development assistance as source of foreign exchange inflow. While the World Bank still predicts increase in global remittances, the rate of growth are considerably lower than those previously prior to the global financial crisis. The bank cites as downside risks the uncertain economic prospect in destination countries such as in Europe and the potential immigration control that would kick in should the crisis deepen. iRemit has already set its sight on the larger market global remittance market. Though comprising still a small part of its core business, iRemit has already embarked on tapping various remittance corridors around the world, involving Filipinos and non-Filipinos as well. An example of that is remittance corridor are open in all of our own branches in the countries that we have in operation. And there are, as of today, 10 countries that we have our own branches. They can send money, for example, from Canada back to Hong Kong, or from Hong Kong to Singapore, and to any of the 10 countries that we have. That is not only targeted to the Filipino market, but also to the local nationalities. We further see the potential future inflow of remittance to the Philippines may come from Filipinos, but from the large pool of retirees in countries we call the silver lining from the silver market. The Philippines is a relatively young country by global standards. The proportion of senior citizens or those aged 65 old and above is only 4.3%. By 2015, it is estimated that the total retiree globally will reach 1 billion individuals. In the United States, the first American baby boomer turned 65 last January 1, 2011. And the rest have started to retire at the rate of 10,000 per day. And this is on top of the 35 million American seniors that are already in retirement. If we look at our neighbor in Asia, Japan has the highest proportion of elderly citizens, with 22.7% over the age of 65. It is projected that this will be increased to 25.6 by 2030. Taiwan's early population is nearly 2.5 million, or 10.9% out of 23 million. Singapore is another country that faces the twin challenges of low fertility and an aging population. The proportion of those aged 65 and above is estimated to have reached 9.2% this year. Admittedly, the program to make Philippines a leading retirement destination for the world retirees, senior, and elderly are still in the early stages. The country is faced with tough competitions from the aggressive players, notably Ecuador, Panama, Mexico, Costa Rica in the Americas, and Thailand, Malaysia, and New Zealand in Asia Pacific. The Philippines is only eyeing a small portion of 1 million or 0.1% to retire here. And as Dr. Villegas has said in his previous speech, Philippines are well accepted as healthcare or caregiver because we are friendly and we have loving care to our patients. Over the last few years, Philippine Retirement Authority have strengthened their program for the deployment and approval of strategic retirement villages and the conversion of residential housing projects into retirement homes that will contribute to the growth of the industry. We see the global retirees market as contributing to the local economy, just like OFW remittances, by encouraging investment in hotels, retirement villages, retirement homes, condominiums, private homes, sports and recreational facilities, healthcare facilities, and other infrastructure development. In addition, more jobs will be created to cater to the need of these retirees. Consider to get 1 million retirees that will be bringing $1,500 every month. That is translated to $18 billion of remittances from abroad to the Philippines. Adding it to our present 20.1, we will be more or less doubling the expected remittances to the Philippines. IREMIT intend to capitalize this market considering that it has established presence in many countries with growing population and the partnership and alliance it has with Philippine banks, real estate developers, and government agencies. Another attractive market for remittance is the steadily growing population of foreigners who are now in the Philippines, mostly to study and for recreation. Official statistics released by Bureau of Immigration last February show that there are more than 61,000 foreigners studying in various schools and learning institutions in the Philippines. The government actually started enticing foreign students to study in the Philippines as far back as 1980s, but this was mainly for a specialized field. Today, the widespread use of English and the relatively cheap cost of education are driving more and more foreign students into the country. And with that, they have to bring more dollars when they come to study, and there are a lot of people also that come here just to play golf. This opportunity that I have just described are just example of how IREMIT create its own market and uses the innovative drive of its organization to be the successful Filipino remittance company that it is today. Let me end